Hi, I'm Gary Legwald, online editor for Handy, and I'm here with Dan Carey, senior editor at Handy Magazine. Now, Dan and two other woodworkers with a combined experience of 70 years have taken on an interesting challenge. They want to design and build the best ever sawhorse. So, Dan, why are you doing this? I mean, aren't all sawhorses the same? Can't you get by in a shop with just one?
Well, depending on the type of work you do, you probably could, but no one design necessarily fits all woodworkers' needs. And sure, there are plenty of store-bought versions you can buy.
Yeah, the collapsible.
Sure, they're
great.
I love them. If you just need something for basic around the house duties, those collapsible ones work great. They're lightweight, they hang on the wall, they're relatively inexpensive, but there's something about the idea of building your own sawhorses, similar to, a more advanced woodworking version of this would be building your own workbench for a woodworker, where you've built this and now this project is going to be your sidekick on countless other projects around your house.
Okay, Dan, now you three got together, and what did you come up with?
Well, the first design we came up with, we mentioned those plastic folding sawhorses, is really what inspired those sawhorses. This is a collapsing sawhorse. It's similar to the folding type you buy. It's hinged in the middle, so it's really nice. You just tap your toe, lift it up, folds up. It's very strong.
Is this birch or?
It is. This is birch, maybe a little over the top for most people's uses. I realize most people are probably going to build this out of pine.
Okay.
We just had the birch and thought it'd be nice to step it up a little for the one in the magazine. It also shows how nice you can make a sawhorse. I mean, this is basically almost a piece of furniture at this point. If you got a tabletop, you could make a kind of a modern-looking desk using these as the legs.
Okay, so you got one. What are the other two?
Well, the next design we came up with that's in the magazine is the stacking sawhorse. Sometimes these are called 15-degree sawhorses because the ends of the legs are mitered at 15 degrees and beveled at 15 degrees.
Okay.
So you get this compound angle where it's splaying out. It gives these sawhorses incredible stability and strength. They're relatively lightweight, and you can make them any height you want based on the leg length.
So why did you make it this height? What is it?
This is my personal favorite. I like low sawhorses. I do a
How
lot
tall is that?
This one here, I believe, is 16 inches. Okay. And when you're assembling furniture, a workbench is often too high, and so I can put pieces down there, put an old door or a piece of plywood, and it becomes this low workbench where I can comfortably work on the piece. And they stack. The other great thing about this height is, at 16 inches, you can stand on them as sort of a mini scaffolding. A taller version of that, this is a 30-inch version, more traditional sawhorse height.
Okay.
And what we chose to do on this was add the lower tray for materials, so you can put pieces of hardware or whatever. The only downside of that is you can't stack it with the lower tray. You can also vary the width of the top. This is a 2x6. The shorter ones we used a 2x8. I believe Vern built some using a 2x12, which will really give you almost a mini scaffolding because he does a lot of set wall painting, and so they're great for that. He can walk across them. So it's really nice.
So what's this little one here?
That is kind of the bonus project. While we were kicking around ideas, the idea of tool totes came up. All three of us have seen or used a variation of this where it's sometimes they'll call it a finish box. Finish carpenters would use them. It looks almost like a bench. Well, we did one that's sort of inspired by sawhorse design. It's got the kind of splayed triangle sides, and we've put a couple of doors with some bin space below, a swing-up handle to carry. Again, this one is roughly 16 inches high.
You can stand on it.
So it's the same benefits of the lowboy stackers there, that you can stand up on it, sit on it, eat your lunch, put some tools in, carry it in. So it's very versatile.
Okay, Dan, we've got three 4 sawhorses, and I see you have a couple of accessories. What do they go with?
These go with the folding design. We, as we were designing it, we started talking about the fact that these folding ones don't really have a flat surface on the top,
Yeah.
and what if you want to do that? So we designed it's really a top cover piece that slips over. This gives you the flat surface that you can attach scrap boards to as a sacrificial cutting board.
Yeah.
If you want to do some cutting and not cut your saw blade right into your sawhorses. You could also put a piece of carpet over it. I do that with my low ones for when you're working on furniture. You won't mar up a finish if you're working with a finished project. Also, we drilled a couple holes in the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then we made this outfeed roller that just slides over
Yep.
like this. Oh, lined up.
There you go.
You'd put a nut on the inside to secure it. Adjustable height.
Yep.
You could put this outside of your table saw and use it as an outfeed roller on a table saw, or as a miter saw extension support.
And this is
just PVC that's been slipped over a dowel.
cool. Yeah.
A couple of scrap pieces.
Pull that off.
Exactly.
Okay, so any special tools or techniques for these sawhorses?
Well, as I mentioned before, the folding sawhorse, we used a biscuit joiner
Yes.
to join all these gusset pieces and the cross pieces and the legs. So in this case, it was table saw, miter saw, biscuit joiner.
Okay.
But you could use any saw to do those cutting to length aspects. Now the stacking sawhorse, you really could do this with one saw. You could do this with a table saw. We did it with a table saw and a miter saw.
Okay.
Used the table saw to bevel rip the edges of the top piece to 15 degrees, and then we used a miter saw to create our compound angles on the legs and to cut these gussets.
So what if somebody doesn't have a table saw or a miter saw? Is there another way?
Oh, absolutely. You could use a circular saw and do all of these cuts. You could use a straight edge, tip your circular saw at 15 degrees, rip the bevel, mark a 15-degree cross-cut line with the saw at 15 degrees, and cut these compound angles. So you could do the whole thing with that. You could do the same thing with a jigsaw.
All right, so will you show us that technique?
Sure. If you don't have a miter saw or a table saw, you can make the compound miter cuts for building the stacking sawhorses using a jigsaw or a circular saw. First step is to mark a 15-degree line across your workpiece. The easiest way is to use a speed square, set it at 15 degrees, draw your line across. If you don't have a speed square, another way to get a 15-degree line would be to draw two lines approximately 1 inch apart, and then connect the diagonals. And that will also give you roughly a 15-degree line. The next step is to set your saw to a 15-degree bevel.
Thanks, Dan, for your ideas and your designs.
Absolutely.
So if you are at home working in your shop with a couple of so-so sawhorses and you want to use up some of your scrap lumber, use these designs to help you create your own version of the best ever sawhorse.